Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman. That right there is Patrick McDonald. And Patrick, this is an exciting day, but sometimes the saddest day of the year. The Masters is over. We have a great champion. We have a lot to talk about, but we are nearly a full year away from getting to do it all over again.
Yeah, Rick, I know you're still out there in Augusta. Set the scene for us. You were doing it all week for us, brilliantly from the golf course. What's the town like today?
The part of town that I'm in is quite quiet. I was telling you earlier. I think I'm the only person left in this hotel at the moment. So I think most people have already gotten out of here, but I'm enjoying it for one last day. I see a lot of Masters flags everywhere. This is a community that takes a ton of pride in the Masters, as you can imagine. We heard those stories all week long about, hey, I actually just live a couple of streets over, and I volunteer every year at the Masters, and I wear my green and yellow. It's a really cool thing that this town has going.
Yeah, and I know there's some media members who are lucky enough to be playing the golf course today in some spicy conditions, mind you. I'm expecting a lot of implosions to be coming out of that. Did you hear that one woman who won the lottery has never played a round of golf in her life?
I'm hoping that when she plays Augusta National. So for those who don't know, there is a media lottery. I think they select 24 media members to play Augusta National the day after the Masters. I did not win. So yes, there was a media member who is going to make her very first golfing appearance ever on any golf course. Patrick, if I did that and I played the first time ever at the greatest course to ever be constructed, I would just retire and never play again.
Do you think she picks up her golf ball at all? Like she's meandering down 11. She's like, I'm good. I'll just head to 12.
I mean, I think I would, right? I think I would, and I play a lot of golf. I think there's a scenario like I don't know how athletic is she? I mean, I the first time I played golf, I could barely make contact with the ball, so I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah. All I hope is she posts a legit score, posted on the internet. So the real golf hardos. I know some media members were a little mad. They wanted her to kind of give it to someone else, but she won the lottery. I hope she posts a legit score for all of us to see. I mean, good for her.
Yeah, yeah, good for her. I'm excited to hear. Well, listen, let's talk about Scottie Scheffler. Now, twice a Masters champion in the last 3 years, and he did it in convincing fashion. But Patrick, I want to even just go back to the start of the week. The refrain from basically everybody on planet Earth was, yes, Scottie Scheffler is going to win this golf tournament. He entered with some of the shortest odds in Masters history. He went from a formidable favorite to a convincing champion. It's really hard to pull that off for the entirety of the week, and Scottie has just done it.
Yeah, I credit it to probably two things. One, the mentals in between the ears. He is by far the best. He's just so sure of who Scottie Scheffler is as a person that it translates to the golf course, and it becomes probably his greatest superpower. And then two, obviously the tee to green game. I think for the majority of the week, Scottie Scheffler was not Scottie Scheffler with the iron play. He made some uncharacteristic mistakes. You think about the first two rounds on 13, he got lucky one of the times. The other time he did not. But his short game, he got to display those hands, which are, some of the softest in the world. It's just world-class short game that not a lot of people talk about. And I think the first three rounds, maybe even the first 3.5 rounds of this golf tournament was defined by Scottie Scheffler's short game. And then once he got the ball striking, once he kind of rediscovered it, it was over. It was a wrap. I mean, he just hit, target after target from what seemed like the eighth hole on the last 10 holes of the golf tournament, and really ran away from what was a great chasing pack. And we were running four wide with 10 to go, and you blink and Scottie Scheffler's won the Masters.
Four wide with 10 to go, and basically a determined outcome with six to go. That's how quickly it happened. It all happened in Amen Corner, where we saw Ludvig Aberg, Max Homa, Colin Morikawa, all in one way or another, card a double through the most famous stretch of three holes in golf, while Scottie got through unscathed. And that really is the difference. And Patrick, I love it when the Masters gets decided in Amen Corner. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, it seems like It has for the past, I don't know, like half decade. You think about Tiger Woods in 2019 with Finau and Poulter and Molinari all faltering. Even in 2022, I know we talked about it a little last night. This round reminded me a lot of that 2022 final round where Scottie didn't have his ball striking early. Cam Smith make a charge at him. Scottie birdies number 3 like he did yesterday to kind of get a little bit of breathing room. And then you come to Amen corner. Cam Smith tries to more or less win the golf tournament on number 12, makes a bad swing, finds Rae's Creek. Scottie Scheffler wins the green jacket. And we saw it there yesterday where it seemed like guys were trying to win the Masters around Amen corner. Ludvig with that, trying to get probably a too aggressive into 11, which is a big no-no. Colin pushing after making the big mistake on 9, trying to make a birdie on 11, also a big no-no. And then Max Homa, 1 yard further or 1 yard shorter, he's probably fine. He just hit the perfect downslope where it bounces into the bush and he has to take it unplayable. But Scottie Scheffler just displayed the discipline that the other guys couldn't. And he realized, moving forward on 13 and 14 with that pin, there were birdie chances ahead of him. And he let the other guys really falter and make the mistakes. And he's standing there all by himself.
Yeah, standing there all by himself. And Patrick, there's nothing we love more than immediately overreacting. So let's talk about the Scottie Slam. The chances of him winning all 4 majors in 1 year. And maybe you throw in the players. He's already got that one done. He's 40% of the way through the big 5. Hey, it's an Olympic year. Let's just give him that one too. Now he's up to 6 in 1 year. That has would be one heck of a combo. But I was looking at the odds. He's obviously a heavy favorite to win each of the last 3 major championships. If you turn those in to probabilities, it is about a 1% chance that Scottie Scheffler will win the Grand Slam this year. Now, that sounds like a little. That is an insanely high number. 1% is an insanely high number considering the feat and the odds and the probabilities of this actually occurring.
So if we look at a strokes gained perspective, just the last 3 months, not even the last 2 years, not even the last 12 months, the last 3, he's 1 stroke better than Xander Schauffele per round, who is the 2nd ranked player. And he has doubled Tommy Fleetwood, who is the 10th ranked player. Scottie Scheffler is at 3.51. Tommy Fleetwood's at about 1.7-ish. And so put it in that perspective, and you're like, Scottie Scheffler is just so much better than everyone else in the world right now. And it's not close. It really is not. Like Ludvig Aberg beats, wins the Masters most years when Scottie Scheffler's not in the field, right? But the thing that I'm a little worried about, and I think the one championship that these guys have to get Scottie Scheffler is the PGA Championship. There's a baby in the house. Maybe he's not sleeping as well. Maybe he's changing diapers more than he's practicing or whatever it may be. But I think they have to get theirs at Valhalla. I love Scheffler's game for Pinehurst number 2. I think he could win that championship with his blade putter, not the mallet, if he just wants to toy with them and have a little fun. And then, as we know, anything can happen at the Open. I mean, weather draws, 1%'s tough, obviously, but there's so many variables. He could be on the wrong side of a draw, a bad bounce here or there, whatever it may be. But I mean, it's real. Like the possibility is definitely real.
I just want to get to the U.S. Open with the Slam as a possibility. That's all I ask. And it's going to be tough because there are plenty of guys vying for major championships this year. We're going to continue this conversation with some of those names after a quick break. Welcome back to the First Cut podcast, and we have already talked about Scottie Scheffler being on top of the golfing world, but Patrick, there are plenty of guys vying for that crown. Let's start with the ones who were in the mix at the Masters, and the newest face on the block, Ludvig Aberg. Yes, get used to that name. He is from Sweden, and he is unbelievable, Patrick. I mean, you've dubbed him Ludvig AI. He seems like a robot. He seems like he has every single emotion under control. His swing was crafted in some lab somewhere. I'm positive of that. He is an absolute stud.
Yeah, I don't blame the older generation of the PGA Tour hooting and hollering that the youngsters are stealing their jobs like artificial intelligence, because Ludwig's coming for him. And not only was it his Masters debut, it was his major championship debut. He was trying to become the first player ever to win the Masters in his major debut. Keegan Bradley won the PGA Championship about a decade ago in his major debut, but it is legitimately just an automated process, highly efficient, highly effective. See ball, hit ball. It felt like at times his caddy, Joe Scavron, was playing Tiger Woods PGA Tour 2008, just telling him like, "Hey, hit a 5 yard draw off that tree for me." Boom. Hey, fade one 3 yards off that. Boom. And so it was just wildly impressive. And he walked around Augusta National like it was a Tuesday practice round at the Valspar Championship. To tell you the truth, it seemed like nothing really got in his way outside of one of the patrons knocking a power bar out of his hands while he was rounding the turn. Maybe that threw him for a little bit of a loop there when he made the mistake on number 11. But outside number 11, obviously just a poor iron swing, too aggressive to that pin location on that hole. But to bounce back like he did and apply a little bit of pressure on Scottie Scheffler showed me a lot of chops, and he just looked so at ease on the second nine at Augusta National for a guy in his first major championship. And those type of players do not come around often, Rick.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the double that he made there on 11. I was right there on the side of the fairway. It's a 11 is a very difficult hole. It's one of the most difficult holes on the golf course, especially in that moment of the championship. The wind was swirling and they couldn't figure it out. Ludwig finds the drink. He wasn't the only one to do that. I loved the bounce back, right? When Homa made double, it was kind of over. When Morikawa made his second double in a 3-hole stretch, it was over. Ludwig got both of those shots back quickly and was still the only one applying what little pressure could still be applied to Scottie.
Yeah, he had a very realistic eagle chance on 13 as well, which would have erased those two drop shots immediately. Hits a perfectly controlled short iron into number 12 as well, pin high, middle of the green. And the bounce back, yeah, like you said, Rick, very impressive, wise beyond his years. It seems like nothing gets to this guy, whether it's because of the Ryder Cup experience he got this past fall, or whether it's because Joe Scavron has so much experience around Augusta National. Whatever it is, it's impressive and it's fun to watch, and we're going to be watching a lot of him over the next couple decades.
The resume is building, already a PGA Tour winner, already a DP World Tour winner, already a member of the winning Ryder Cup team, and now a runner-up finish in your first major championship appearance ever. So pretty good start if you are Oberg. Let's talk about Max Homa. This is a different path for Max here, Patrick. Ludwig jumps out of the gates professionally and starts making noise. Max Homa has spent a half a decade getting a little bit better every single week, and now he's probably a top 10 player in the world, and he's trying to take those strides and those improvements to major championships. He faltered on 12, making a double on the par 3 there, but he was very much in the mix, and this is by far his best major championship result.
I loved Max Homa's strategy around Augusta National for the first 3.5 rounds of this golf tournament. It seemed like he was super disciplined. He took his medicine. It felt like he was just sort of jostling for position in the peloton there, but he was in the peloton, right? We talked about how they're running 4 wide with 10 to go. Homa's right there, and after Ludwig hits it in the water and Colin makes that double bogey on number 9, all of a sudden Homa's at the top of the hill as the guy who can take down Scottie Scheffler. It's a super disciplined golf shot, a great golf shot to find that green down the hill on number 11. And then number 12, probably a yard too long, maybe a yard too short, whatever it may be. He perfectly finds that little downslope beyond the 12th green, gets a hard bounce into the bush, has to take an unplayable. But like you said there, Rick, this is a guy who struggled to maintain his tour card for a while, who won at the Wells Fargo Championship at a major championship venue. He's slowly but surely gotten better and better, won at golf courses like Torrey Pines and Riviera as well. Stars on the President's Cup team, makes the putt during the fall not to lose the Ryder Cup. He's talked about that often, how much his legs were shaking during that. And now we've seen this major championship progression for him. And if he keeps on progressing like he has this past half decade, you would think this is going to be a common occurrence for Max Homa.
Yeah, he's learning a lot about himself each and every tournament. He's putting it all into the memory bank for later use. Collin Morikawa is maybe one of the most interesting golfers that we have on tour right now, Patrick. And we talked about this a little bit on Sunday night's show. Basically, he's 9 hours away. You wake up Sunday morning, you have one good round, and you're a three-time major champion in your first 17 starts. It is still an unbelievably short list of what he's been able to accomplish in just such a short period of time in major championships. But 2024 hasn't been a great year for him. It doesn't feel like he's that major championship threat every time he tees it up, but I think we need to start reevaluating that.
Yeah, Rick, we were 10 holes away from Collin Morikawa having two more majors than Scottie Scheffler, one more major than Dustin Johnson and Justin Thomas and Jon Rahm, and one major away, the U.S. Open, where he is statistically the most sound from the career Grand Slam. And he matched Scottie Scheffler those first 8 holes shot for shot, but he just got nothing out of the greens. He had a lot of really good putts, just wasn't able to convert. You think about the par 5 second, he wasn't able to. He accessed the par 3 6 pin on top of that plateau, which was ridiculously difficult to get to. Wasn't able to make it, but matches a Scheffler birdie with one of his own on 8, and then he got, his own words, got too greedy on 9 after losing his tee shot right into the pine straws, missed the green left in the greenside bunker, and wasn't able to get up and down. And then at that point, he's just playing catch up, and you don't play catch up around Amen Corner. But what I learned from Collin Morikawa this week is some of those guys just have it. I'm not putting it on the Brooks Koepka level of he has to be considered for every major championship, but this is now at least the second time where he's entered the major championship without his superpower, his iron play. Think about the 2022 U.S. Open, where he hit a draw for the first time in his life, and he's leading at the halfway point. And so moving forward, no matter the form, I think if he's showing any signs of life, Collin Morikawa is a guy you have to consider for every major championship, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is interesting. He hasn't even really peaked at the right times. These guys try to peak 4 times a year, and he hasn't really even gotten that right, yet he's found contention quite a bit. Well, we are a long way removed from real contention for Tiger Woods, but we must talk about the big cat here because he did get through 4 rounds, Patrick, at Augusta National. They did not end well. He makes the cut, but then he finishes last amongst those who made the cut. His weekend was laborious. It looked difficult out there. It was not a very good golf, but he will leave the week with a brand new record, and that's most consecutive Masters cuts made. He breaks a tie with Gary Player and Fred Couples, now 24 Masters cuts in a row.
Yeah, I think that was a big motivation point for him coming into the week. Obviously, had only played 24 holes this entire season, and got off to a really nice start with rounds of 73 and 72. Was inside the top 25 entering the weekend, only 7 strokes off the pace. You think, it's an outside shot, slim chances, but he's not totally out of this if he can put together somewhat decent round. But, physically, we've seen it time and time again in this latest iteration of Tiger Woods' career, where once it hits the weekend, it's tough to watch. For as fun and as good as shots he was hitting the first 2 days, you think about some of the around the green shots he hit were just downright silly, especially on number 11. It was as bad over the weekend, and major championship weekends have not been kind to Tiger ever since 2020, to tell you the truth. And his last 4 at Augusta National are 78, 78, 82, 77. Southern Hills in 2022 when he had to withdraw from the PGA Championship. That was after a 79 as well. So it's tough, but that's kind of just the state of Tiger Woods and the state of his game at the moment, where he just can't get around a golf course that's physically demanding like Augusta National in the way he used to. Maybe it gets better at a hot, humid Pinehurst number 2, Valhalla, I see him kind of struggling at, even though he's won there before. Just when you think about what the PGA Championship requires now, it's a really good. It's a driver's championship when you think about it. They grow the rough out. That's probably not great for Tiger Woods. So if you're trying to hitch your wagon on a major championship this year, I lean Pinehurst #2. But even that's a super, super long shot at the moment.
Yeah, massive ask for Tiger to even contend in a major championship in this current state. There are others who left Augusta National disappointed, Patrick. We are going to talk about those on the other side. Welcome back to the First Cut Podcast, live on CBS Sports Network. And Patrick, we've talked about the highs. Unfortunately, we've got to talk about the lows as well. We've got to do our job, and we've got to talk about guys who disappointed at Augusta National. And the biggest disappointment, not because a T22 is anything to snicker at, but because of what it could have meant. And that's Rory McIlroy, who has yet again failed to complete the career Grand Slam. He's extending his major championship drought. From a historical standpoint, anytime a golfer who has the second shortest odds to win has a chance to win and complete the career Grand Slam, it's a big deal. So, unfortunately, this falls as a McIlroy failure.
Yeah, a little bit of a bummer, especially because he got off to a decent start this year. Normally, Rory McIlroy, you can kiss his Masters chances goodbye after Thursday, but he opened up with a 1 under 71, was right in the mix. Friday, it got really tough out there, and you have him playing alongside the two best players in the world statistically in Scottie Scheffler and Xander Schauffele. And you can just see how far away his game is compared to those, especially Scheffler's. I mean, everyone's far away from Scheffler at the moment. But Rick, the one shot that really stands out to me, and I think a lot of people, I'm not alone in this, the second into 11 on Friday, where Scheffler hits this flighted, beautiful golf shot to the right side. Rory just goes full blast into the wall of wind coming off the right and hits it into the drink there. And he ends up shooting a 77 on Friday, backs it up with a 71 Saturday. And at that point, he's really out of the golf tournament. But yeah, I think, Rory's gotten off to a little bit of a slow start this year. That's not unusual. He kind of picked up the pace last year at Oak Hill and finished really well his 2023. But I think people need to remember that 2022 and 2023, statistically at least, were Rory McIlroy's best seasons of his entire career. And it looks like maybe he's fallen off that pace a little bit. And then you combine Scheffler's just scorcher at the moment, and it seems like he's, far away from major championships. But you look at the graphic you have from rickrungood.com, and he plays really well in major championships. He gives himself chance after chance, especially at the PGA Championship and the U.S. Open these past couple years. I mean, he easily could have won at LACC. He easily could have won at Southern Hills when Mito Pereira collapsed. He kind of was only a stroke out there of that playoff. So you would think eventually the ball just has to bounce his way. But I think his game needs to go, it needs to turn the corner a little bit before we get to that point for Rory McIlroy.
This graphic is such a great representation of the combination of both skill and luck that is required to win any golf tournament, let alone a major championship. So since Rory's last major championship win, 2014, only Brooks Koepka's been better in terms of total strokes gained than Rory at majors. Rory's been better than Spieth and DJ. Those are 3 and 4, yet those guys combine for 10 major championships during that stretch. Rory, 0. And you've seen guys who have played much more inconsistently, who have not played as well, Patrick, who have majors, yet Rory's constantly in the mix and hasn't found a trophy.
Yeah, I think the 1 point from that graph is not all strokes gained are made the same. We went a while there where Rory McIlroy didn't really give himself a great chance at major championships. I know he has a ton of really nice results at the Masters in particular, but if Rory turns in 30 joke that runs across the internet, it's a real thing, right? He used to enter the back door top 10 all the time at Augusta National. His best chance really was 2018 with Patrick Reed when he was in that final pairing, but shot 74. But his best result technically is that runner-up to Scottie Scheffler in 2022, where Rick, I think, we'd both admit he didn't really have a chance on that second 9 on Sunday. So recently he's gotten a lot better. Obviously, the past few years he seems to always be in the mix. The 2022 Open, I mean, if he just made like one putt of substance, that championship's probably his. A couple PGA championships, the U.S. Open as well, when he dunked his wedge shot into the bunker on 15, that par 5. So he's close. He's close, but he just has to go out and grab it when the moment is there. And recently, he hasn't been able to do that.
If you want a gut-wrenching few hours, go back and rewatch the final round at the Open, where he just two putts everything and cannot buy like just any one of those falls, and it's probably his. The guy that I might be more concerned about, Patrick, is Justin Thomas. This is a lot now, right? I mean, he stood on 15T on Friday in like a tie for 15th. I think he was even par. He was definitely even par. I believe it was a tie for 15th. It's not an easy closing stretch, but plenty of guys were, making a birdie here, making a birdie there. If he gets one more coming in, he's inside the top 10 going into the weekend. Instead, utter disaster. Double, bogey, double, plays his final 4 holes, 7 over par. He moves the cut line to get the +6s in. He finishes at +7, doesn't even get himself in, and now for the first time in his career, he has missed 3 consecutive major championship cuts. Add on top of that, as if that wasn't enough, Patrick, he has just split with his caddy, Bones, and there's just seems like a lot of turbulence, a lot of questions, and not a lot of answers.
He is as volatile as ever, Rick, and volatility does not work in major championships. Yeah, I mean, look at Scottie Scheffler, right? There's people out there claiming he has no riz, right? He's boring. Boring golf wins major championships. Brooks Koepka, fairway, green, 2-putt. That's the formula, right? Tiger Woods did it for decades. Brooks Koepka did it, and now Scottie Scheffler is doing it. Justin Thomas does not have that answer key at the moment. And you bring up the major championships of the past. He made 3 out of 4 cuts last year. Made the cut at Oak Hill in his PGA Championship defense, had to make a putt on the last hole on Friday, an 8-footer, just to make the weekend, finished towards the bottom of the leaderboard. But you think about the high scores recently, the 79 there at Augusta National on Friday, the Valspar Championship on Saturday when he touched the lead, and then he lost like 3 million strokes on the green when he did have Jim Bones Mackay on the bag. You bring up the Open Championship where he didn't break 80, the U.S. Open where he didn't break 80. He mixes in these really good rounds that kind of draw you in, and you're like, okay, Justin Thomas is back. The iron play looks great. He has all this creativity around the green, and then you blink and he's shooting 80 or shooting 79 again, and that's just not a recipe for success in major championships.
I am a victim of being drawn in to Justin Thomas and only to be disappointed. Well, let's do one more disappointment here, Patrick, and I'm going to go with Jordan Spieth. I mean, this is a guy that I was promised could summon the magic anytime he gets to Augusta National. Let me tell you, he did not. And Jordan Spieth is someone whose stat profile is as concerning as ever. I'm not even sure what he's good at anymore. I'm not even sure what he's bad at anymore, because every single week it's something different. He plugs one leak, another one opens up somewhere else. I am about as concerned as I've ever been on Jordan Spieth, which probably means he's going to win the RBC Heritage.
Yeah, I think he summoned the demons there instead. He played the wrong card on the Ouija board. But yeah, I mean, last time he missed the cut at the Masters, he did win the RBC Heritage the following week, where he was missing putts from like 3 inches, if you remember. But I came into this year thinking it was the most important season of Jordan Spieth's career. Over the past couple, he came out of that valley from like 2019, 2020. Won in 2021 at the Texas Open, won again in 22. And who was Jordan Spieth going to be in 2023? Was it going to be a middle of the pack type of guy moving forward where he picks off 1 win a year, and that's a great season for Jordan Spieth? Couple that with a Ryder Cup or a President's Cup appearance. Or is he going to be a guy who contends in major championships, right? We always talk about how he always has 2 built-in major runs at Augusta National and at the Open Championship because of his history and because of his creativity. And there might be a chance that one of those open runs is coming to an end because it has not been good for Jordan Spieth over the last handful of years. I know he finished fourth at this tournament last year, but never really had a chance chasing down Jon Rahm. And so, yeah, I'm with you, Rick. I was very high on Spieth entering the year. I was high after he almost won the Century, if not for a couple missed short putts. But ever since that start, it's been like, what are we doing? You have no idea what he's doing half the time. He's playing in sewers. He's hitting balls in the gutter. He's hitting balls in the water and then launching it over the green with a 50-yard pitch. Jordan Spieth doesn't do that. He definitely doesn't do that at Augusta National. So, yeah, I think the concern level's pretty high. I think he's not I think his wrist is bothering him more than he's leading on. I've heard some murmurs on the ground that he was holding his wrist a couple times after a few shots. So, yeah, I'm not too sure what to think, which means, like you said, Rick, he's probably going to win soon.
Exactly. Right. I don't know what Jordan Spieth is doing, but I know what we're doing. We're going to be previewing the final 3 major championships of the year after a quick break. Welcome back to the First Cut podcast live on CBS Sports Network. And Patrick, the Masters is over, but we're just a month away from the next major championship, and that's the PGA Championship. We're going to Valhalla, which, as the locals say, is in Louisville, Kentucky. Right? Did I get that?
Louisville.
Louisville. It's like
Louisville.
a in the throat type of deal. Well, we're going back to Valhalla for the first time since 2014. You know who won it then?
Who was that, Rick?
That was Rory McIlroy.
Ah, okay. In the
Last
dark.
one, right?
Yeah, in the dark with Ricky Fowler and Phil Mickelson.
PGA Championship when it was in August was the last one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that was the stretch he went on where he won 3 tournaments in a row. The Open, the WGC at Firestone, and then Valhalla in the dark where he hit into Phil and Ricky in the final hole, if you recall.
Phil wanted to come back on Monday.
Yeah,
right?
He did.
He was worried that it was a little bit too dark. Well, there's a lot of interesting storylines here. The career Grand Slam is out there for one Jordan Spieth.
Yeah, so Jordan Spieth does have the career Grand Slam going for him. Obviously, as we just touched on, probably not the best fit for him statistically, given where his game is at. But Valhalla, Jack Nicklaus design, tends to cater to faders of the golf ball. Obviously, Scottie Scheffler falls into that category. Ludvig Aberg, coming off that Masters debut, would fall into that category. Rory McIlroy as well. Brooks Koepka, the defending champion, as well. So I think it's going to be a great major championship once again. The PGA Championship has tended to be a great test over these last handful of years when they made kind of the switch to be in that 6 to 8 under range, Rick, and it's produced some really good champions.
It certainly has. It's a massive field. We're going to have some PGA professionals in it as well. It is certainly no small feat. The U.S. Open. Wyndham Clark is going to defend his U.S. Open title that he won at LACC. We're going back to Pinehurst #2, Patrick. Probably one of the most famous, most historic spots that we go to.
Yeah, I had a few buddies go there a couple weeks ago. Will Neville, AJ Catalano, it's their birthday. And they gave me kind of the lowdown, Rick. They're really bad golfers, and you know what? They struggled quite mightily. And you know who's not a bad golfer? Scottie Scheffler. I think he wins this championship by 5. Going away, you got to ball strike your way around it. The around the greens are very difficult, short mode areas. Scottie Scheffler is going to be able to put his hands on full display there. I know it's historic. I know Martin Keimer kind of putted his way around en route to his victory. I think he won by 8 over Ricky Fowler and Eric Compton. I can't believe I know that one, pulling that one out. But I think this one is really Scottie Scheffler's to lose, especially when you think about his U.S. Opens the last 2 years. He had a putt on the 72nd hole at Brookline to force a playoff, and last year he finished 3rd, real close at LACC.
Yeah, this is when Keimer putted everything off the greens, if I remember correctly, and just never gave anybody a chance. Well, we're going back to our PGA Championship site that we went to in 2014. We're going back to our US Open site that we went to in 2014. We're going back to our Open Championship site that we went back to in 2016. It would have been so beautiful if it was 2014. That would have worked out really well, but it didn't, because we are going back to Troon, and this is where we got the Henrik Stenson, Phil Mickelson battle. They lapped the field. There was a huge gap between them and the man who finished third. Do you remember who that was, Patrick?
It wasn't Andrew Beef Johnston. It was Brant Snedeker.
I think it was JB Holmes.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Oh man.
But this was the duel, and obviously you mentioned it a little bit earlier in the show. An Open Championship is sometimes out of these guys' hands. You might be on the wrong end of the weather draw. There are just a lot more variables and things that we cannot control that are going to happen that week.
Yeah, it feels like we haven't really seen a super bad weather. I know there was some rain and wind last year, but Rick, I'm kind of hoping for a baked out brown gust of 40 to 50 type Open Championship this year. That's what I'm really hoping for. But like you said, it's really tough to kind of prognosticate what's going to happen there. Troon personally isn't one of my favorite in the Rota, but it produced a great championship last time, and hopefully it does again.
That's much farther in the distance. We're going to talk about what is in the immediate next stop on the schedule, because the schedule rolls on. The RBC Heritage, a signature event. We'll cover that after a quick break. Welcome back to the First Cut podcast on CBS Sports Network. And Patrick, no rest for the weary, my friend. The PGA Tour rolls on, and this time to Hilton Head. The Masters is in the past. This is no small event. This is a signature event. So we are getting an absolutely stacked field at a very unique golf course, one that we go to quite a bit. And we're just going to continue to run with this schedule and sprint for as long as we possibly can.
Yeah, hopefully the boys brought the Pedialyte and the Advil for the major hangover, because they're going to be needing it this week. Big time event, like you said, signature event, over $3 million on the line, no cut, and we need to see some of these guys not named Scottie Scheffler get in the winner's circle. A lot of them were close, obviously, last week with Ludvig, Max, and Colin, but someone I'm looking at in particular, Rick, is Patrick Cantlay. We haven't seen him win since the 2022 BMW Championship. He was great at the Ryder Cup in moments. The major championship resume leaves a little bit left to desire, but he was kind of percolating a little bit. He was circling the waters a little bit there at Augusta National, and you see on the screen there that he's 20-1 this week. He's been great at RBC Heritage, Harbortown in the past. He lost in a playoff to Jordan Spieth that one year as well. So Cantlay's the guy I'm looking at, but you got Brian Harman, Wyndham Clark, some of the best players in the world playing on a great golf course that, Rick, is quite different than Augusta National.
Yeah, Patrick Cantlay there with the fifth shortest odds. Now, I want to talk about the golf course in a second, but Scottie Scheffler, the prohibitive favorite, he is still in this field as of right now. I think there was at least a little bit of an expectation that he'd be taking this week off after a tiring week at the Masters. He talked about how much he just wanted to get home and be with Meredith, who is on the verge of having their first child. So I'm thinking Scottie doesn't make it to Thursday and eventually withdraws from this event. But as of right now, he's right back at it, going for a fourth win in 5 starts.
Yeah, I joked last night that we might look back at that Steven Yeager Houston Open victory and be like, what the hell happened there? I mean, good for Yeager, talking about one of the all-time wins that no one saw coming during the Scottie Scheffler stretch. Yeah, maybe he just sent Teddy Scott to Hilton Head, short drive from Augusta. He went back to Austin, to Dallas to take care of Meredith and check on her, and he's going to fly over here shortly. I don't think Scottie Scheffler needs much preparation. The game's obviously in a good shape. Tee to green, he's the best player in the world by far. All around, he's the best player in the world by far. So if Teddy Scott can get a game plan for him, he's obviously very live to pick off his 4th win in the last 5, which is just silly to say.
Yeah, well, we'll see if he does tee off on Thursday. The golf course is a special one. It's a fun one, and Patrick, it doesn't look like a lot of the courses that we get on the PGA Tour calendar. It's shorter. There are very tiny greens. It is not really a driver heavy golf course. You can play this a lot of different ways, and we've seen some of the shorter, more accurate hitters have a lot more success at this golf course than the usual PGA Tour stop.
Yeah, more point A to point B type of golf. You see a lot of mid irons here, which doesn't really make sense when you look at the scorecard. But with the dog legs and the overhanging trees, guys are kind of forced to certain parts of the fairways. If they don't want to take it over, which some have started to do in recent years as well. So yeah, like you said, Rick, it can be played a lot of different ways, but it gives those shorter guys a bit more of a chance. Guys like, my boy Russell Henley, maybe a Denny McCarthy as well, some of those point A to point B players who can find a hot putter.
Yeah, exactly right. And the greens are 37 square feet, 3,700 square feet on average. 37 would be very, very small. 3,700 is still quite small. And the field that's going to battle it, this being elevated to that signature level, Patrick, that hasn't always been the case. In 2020, I think this was one of the strongest fields because it was one of the first events after the COVID restart. But now we're getting something like 26 of the top 30 players in the world teeing it up. So a course that we always see, but now add in Rory, Zalatoris, Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth. I mean, that caliber of golfer.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how some of those bigger hitters like a Wyndham Clark and a Rory McIlroy, where we've seen them thrive on more wide open and bombers paradise type golf courses, how their game will translate to more dink and dunk sort of, right? More the run game, more Big Ten football this week, as opposed to the West Coast air raid offense that they're used to. So those guys in particular are interesting. And like I said, Rick, we need guys to start winning golf tournaments. It has been the season of Scottie Scheffler or the long shot. The stars of yester season have not been around so far. And so I'm hoping some of them will make some noise this week.
Quickly here, Patrick, I think that the guy that has already caught my attention early in the week is Xander Schauffele. I know he holds a special place in your heart. I think he's super live this week with that well-rounded game. Played well last week, didn't really get into the mix, but I think he's super live this time around.
Yeah, Wet Sox Shoffley should have a chance at the what is it? The Calabogie Sound. Is that what it is? Off Hilton Head Island. That's fine. He's definitely the second best statistical player in the world at the moment. But Rick, I'm gonna get weird. It's a Russell Henley week. What week isn't a Russell Henley week, right? Point A, point B, make a lot of putts. Georgia boy in this neck of the woods. I think he has a good tournament.
Who would look the best in that tartan jacket? I don't think it's Russell Henley. I think Xander would look a lot better.
Honestly, I think Shane Lowry, maybe. I think the orange beard kind of complements the plaid, the tartan quite well. And he's another guy who's just hitting the living crap out of his irons.
I love it. Well, Patrick, it has been a pleasure. I'm glad we have covered the gamut of golf talk here. And if you want more of this, you can find both Patrick and I and our friends on the First Cut podcast, which is available on YouTube and anywhere you can get your pods.